We've also heard loud and clear that Canada's immigration system has been broken by Justin Trudeau's fakeness and incompetence. We heard concerns about the failure to ensure that processing standards are met for immigrants who want to come to Canada through legal channels, about backlogs and delays in the system for legitimate refugees and asylum seekers fleeing violence and persecution, about ballooning costs to manage the ongoing situation at Canada's border with the United States, and about the need to fix the temporary foreign worker program. These are just a few examples of the problems that have arisen under Justin Trudeau. These are legitimate criticisms of Justin Trudeau's record on immigration that many Canadians have expressed. However, every time we try and raise valid criticisms on policy, instead of being met by a Prime Minister that accepts criticism and uses it to fix policy, Trudeau has chosen to use the debate about the immigration system to level thinly veiled accusations of racism. This is a dangerous, cynical political tactic, one that has borne fruit of real consequences for Canada's immigration system and for those who unfortunately experience racism. We should be able to have a debate in this country about how the immigration system works without Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party calling people who ask questions racists and bigots. This approach is cheapening public debate in this country, both on policy related to immigration and to addressing real instances of systemic racism experienced by many groups in Canada. The debate has been wrongly defined, right? Like we always get asked, how many people are you going to let in, right? And that's the policy question. Whether to me that's been used for politics or it's based on ideology, either up or down. Our position and our leaders' position is that we should be focusing on the process by which we bring people in, right? We know that people are going to come to the country on an annual basis. We need to be transparent with Canadians on how we set those levels. And we need to have a consultation process that we both think needs to involve the provinces on a more in-depth level. So what we're proposing is that rather than coming out and saying, okay, in this campaign, we're going to campaign on X number of people, we're going to campaign on transparency in setting the process, data that supports who comes into the country as an economic immigrant, or budgeting that supports integration of humanitarian refugees. So what we're saying is that setting immigration levels shouldn't be an auction for votes. It shouldn't be based on ideology. It should be based on sound and transparent process.
So you're going to have consultations as to know like how many people
exactly
come to Canada.
Exactly, and that's what, you know, we did a press conference on the immigration levels report that came out, I think, Pierre, about 6 months ago, and that's what we found was that there was no transparency on the process, right? And that's where you get, there's a vacuum that is filled by rhetoric. And I'd rather say, okay, well, X industry needs X amount of people over this period of time. Let's plan for that. There's a humanitarian crisis that Canada has a desire to respond to. How much is that going to cost over time so that we're not shunting the cost to the provinces and that, you know, we're taking a picture with refugees and then leaving them to their own devices. We want to depart from that process and go back to process rather than, you know, up or down for votes, as we saw in the 2015 campaign, and frankly, I think we're seeing again going into this one. We would oversee an immigration system that is fair, orderly, and compassionate. We would seek to ensure that newcomers to Canada, like so many who have already done so, integrate into the Canadian economic and social fabric. The Conservative Party believes this principle is key to sustaining Canada's pluralism, and that the best way to do this is to encourage and enable newcomers to become self-sufficient, learn one of Canada's official languages, and have a deep-held understanding and respect for Canadian rule of law. We would ensure our humanitarian immigration system prioritizes the world's most vulnerable, and that our intake numbers reflect the cost reality of supporting the integration of those who have fled extreme persecution. And we would directly link the number and skills of people seeking to enter Canada for economic reasons to the needs of the Canadian economy. These principles have already been demonstrated in our time in opposition during this Parliament. In the last 4 years, despite Justin Trudeau's rhetoric, 3 immigration ministers, 2 border ministers, immigration and border ministers, multiple parliamentary secretaries, and 2 Liberal chairs of the Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration, Conservatives have been consistently effective in exposing and correcting unfairness and injustice in the immigration system.